Hi everybody. Today on Cooking the Books with Heather, we are working from the Poole's Diner Cookbook and we are making dark chocolate pecan pie. Yes, I do say pecan, not pecan. That's just how we say it around here. There's not a picture in the book of this, but the first step for this pie is to melt the chocolate over a double boiler. So we've already done that and my video guy is gonna put that in right here. Other than having our pie crust already pre-baked and cooled, the first step for this recipe is to melt the chocolate in a double boiler. Now, I don't have an actual double boiler, but I have a saucepan here with about 1 inch of water and then this glass bowl, which is heat proof. On top of it, I like the glass because I can see how the water is doing underneath it, if it's boiling, if it's not boiling, if I've turned it down too far, that kind of thing. So now we're just gonna kind of stir this up. It says roughly chop the chocolate. I didn't bother to actually chop it. I just, it came in bags and like it was wrapped in like a clear plastic bag. So all I did before I opened the bag was kind of break it up and hit it against the countertop until it was kind of small. And so now we're just gonna melt it over a double boiler. It shouldn't take too long. That's interesting. It's kind of spitting out around the bowl right now, but it's melting pretty quickly, so that's good. And when we're done melting this, we have to let it cool before we can use it, so. Because we're gonna be mixing it with eggs, so we'll have it all ready to go. All right, that's all melted. I'm gonna turn it off, take it off and let it cool down a bit while we prepare the rest of the ingredients for the pie filling. And we also have some melted butter that has been cooled, maybe a little bit too much to room temperature. So I've reheated my butter a little bit because it was getting solid. Room temperature right now is a little bit cold. So now we're gonna go ahead. Oh, also we have to have the pie crust, which we've done before. There's a video down below. The Poole's pie crust, you have to have that pre-baked and cooled. And when I was doing it this time, I realized that the 2 previous times I've done it, I missed a second baking step. I think I did anyway. I'll go back and look at it, but and add a note to the description in that video. But you first bake it with the pie beans, and then you bake it another 15 minutes after you take those out, which I don't remember doing before. So you learn. When you read it again, you learn. Okay, so I've got the pie crust already ready over there, and it looks a lot better and a lot more like it will be completely done this time, which was a problem I had before. So now we're ready to go ahead and make this pie filling. So I have some eggs. There we go. And we're going to whisk these with the sugar. There's no indication of how long we need to whisk this, so I think it's just to sort of get it mixed. And now I'm gonna add my melted and then cooled butter because you don't wanna scramble your eggs. And I'm going to add my melted and cooled chocolate, which also might be a little bit cool at this point, but we'll see. This is 70% dark chocolate, and I am using, let me show you. I am using this Videri dark chocolate. It is a local chocolate maker. They roast the beans, grind the beans, and make the chocolate right here in my hometown. that up. We're gonna add the rest of the ingredients now. We have some corn syrup, which is traditional for a pecan pie in this area. Apparently it's not required, but it is what Ashley Christensen's mom does, I think, and so that's why she includes it here. We have some bourbon. This is optional, but I'm including it. We have some vanilla. And just a pinch of salt. And that is it for this part of the pie crust. And get it all mixed up. I'm gonna clean this part up and bring over the pie crust so I can show you how we put it all together. Okay, so I have my pie crust here. It puffed up a lot when I baked it the second time without the pie beans in, so I'm hoping everything fits in here like it's supposed to. We have pecans, which she says just to arrange in layers. These are chopped. Usually I chop them pretty finely with a chopper, but I bought some chopped pecans and I'm not going to bother making them smaller than this. So, yeah. And now we just pour this on top, just pour it over. Let's hope it all fits. This is pretty full already. I feel like if I try to make sure it gets all up in underneath the pecans to try and fit more in. They're all gonna rise to the top anyway as it bakes, if it's anything like any other pecan pie I've ever made. So, yeah, this is a bit much filling for this.
That's too many pecans.
It is the exact amount that she said. Yeah, that's all I am comfortable putting in there. We're gonna call that full. I've got a little bit left in my bowl, but this will be good. So I've got it. I've got my oven heated to 325 convection. And you're supposed to cook it for about an hour until it's pretty much set, but a little bit wobbly in the very middle. But you really have to watch, since you've pre-baked the crust, you have to watch the edges of the crust and cover those either with a pie shield or just aluminum foil if you don't have one of those, which I don't, if they start browning too much. So we'll let you know how it goes. Okay, so as you can tell, this puffed up quite a bit. I cooked the extra filling with a few extra pecans in a little dish to pull that out a lot earlier because it was tiny. This is what it looks like when it's done. It will fall down as it cools and it'll be fine, but I think I got just about as much as I possibly could in that pie shell. So that's it. On this episode of Cooking the Books with Heather, we made the dark chocolate pecan pie from the Poole Steiner cookbook here. There's no good picture of it. Sorry. You should see my pictures, however. And I have to say, it was not as chocolatey as I would have expected. My husband apparently disagrees. I really did taste the bourbon, and I really enjoyed that flavor in the pie. I think for me, I like a really chocolatey pie. This is sort of a light chocolate flavor, even though, I mean, it's got dark chocolate in it, but with all the other stuff in it, it's sort of a lighter chocolate flavor, not super fudgy chocolatey. That's just not this pie. But if you enjoy that, that's great. We had a little bit too much filling in our pie for the pie crust. It just didn't, it had extra, which we gladly ate separately, cooked and ate separately. It did not set up perfectly. I did cook it a little bit longer than the recipe called for. And it was not super jiggly when I took it out, but it did not set up in the middle perfectly. Our usual recipe has a little bit of flour in it. I think that helps it set up. This one did not. It was still tasty. Nobody complained. And I did learn in this recipe when I was blind baking the pie crust that I'd been doing it wrong the previous 2 times I made it. So that, but the pie crust was fully done this time. It was not at all raw, which is good, which is, you know, as it should be. And it did not get too brown around the edges I didn't have to worry about covering those with foil or anything. It was brown, but not too brown. It was a little bit tough, which may be, you know, I'm not great with pastry. But I didn't have to make it this time because the original recipe makes 4 crusts. So I still even have 1 left in the freezer now. So we'll have to figure out what we're gonna make with that. But we really enjoyed the recipe. We really enjoyed the pie. We took it with us to our Thanksgiving where there was a very large spread of desserts, and we came home with, 1 large or 2 small pieces. So we were able to have a little bit extra, but that, it got mostly eaten. So that was good. And it was, didn't really require any extra equipment once hopefully you've got the pie crust already made like we did. Everything else was just sort of mix up some stuff by hand and you're all good. So it was pretty easy, I think, not including the pie crust, which is always hard for me. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Cooking the Books with Heather. And if you did, please hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and you can come back next week and watch us cook something else.